Okay, I'm going to ask you one question. I'm going to put two lines on the screen. First one is plan come first, execution comes second. Okay, read it carefully. Planning comes first, or the plan comes first, execution comes second. Execution comes first and plan comes second. Right, what I want you to do is, how many of you all say the first one is right? Can we have a rise of hands? How many of you all say the first one is right? Okay, so more than 50% of you, 60%. How many of you all say the second one is right? Execution comes first and the plan comes second. Anyone? One person? Two? Okay. So I know definitely there are people who did not raise hands for any of the two, and that's normal, right? It usually happens in any audience, right? You want the answer to either come from the floor or the ceiling, right? Okay. How many of you all want to raise your hand for this? Plan and the execution comes together. Now, I'm not saying that it happens together, but is it thought together? That's what I'm trying to say. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying necessarily the execution happens with the plan. I'm not saying that. But is it thought like that? That's the most important thing. Why? Because integration is key. Integration is key. If you don't integrate your execution capabilities and ideas together in the planning process, you're bound to fail. So I'm going back. You bring the best consultant in the world with best of benchmarks, and your execution team put together will really strike a balance of what you can achieve. And the consultant will of course challenge. Why can't you do this? I'm not saying necessarily settle down to what you only can do, but bring in those insights. I want to share how we do it in my organization. It's all about, these sessions are all about not sharing what you know. It's also about sharing how it happens in each of these companies. And I'm happy there are so many of my company people also here who has got involved in this process. In my company, we start the planning process in October. We start the planning process in October. We have a medium to long-term plan, which is reviewed. We have annual plans. Now, for the annual plan, we start the planning process in October for the following year. And what we do is, a core team basically decides a planning framework. What do we want to do? What are the areas of focus? A broad plan, a broad point base. It's just a few PowerPoint slides. For example, in our business, few things are important as recruitment of Salesforce, training, Salesforce management, rewards and recognitions, marketing, life operations, and IT. So there'll be 4 slides. Just 4 slides for brainstorming. And what we do is we go to all the branches, cover all the branches within 1 month, speak to a significant audience. They are selected by their designations, taking them, brainstorming their ideas, what they want to do, how they suggest they do it, and so on. Once you collect a whole heap, a big shopping list, planning team get back to office, and then the planning starts. And what happens is, some of those ideas go out of the window, obviously because it's not relevant, or it is not practical, or it is not the regulator restrictions, or don't have resources, or whatever, or less in the priority list. Some may go out of the window. Some may be postponed to the following year. Some may be implemented. And then we go back and present that same plan to back to the same audience, which I did today in the morning and the afternoon, and tomorrow we are doing the last session to cover the country. What does that do? Number one, you have got the execution team involved in the planning process. Number two, when you present it back, they are happy that they have been a part of the plan. and they buy into the plan. It's no more a boss's plan, it's our plan. So integration is key. So I want to rephrase it again. I'm not saying that necessarily that execution and planning happens together. The thinking process of planning and execution needs to happen together because integration is key. Now, what are the barriers for effective planning? A few things. Number one is fear. This is about fear for change, the fear of change. By nature, we are resistant to change. So this is one of the biggest problems. Now, this is where external consultants help you to think you through a broader picture, look at a broader vision, look at an external perspective. It's useful because you tend to always think within a box when you're thinking inside an organization in your planning process, and it's very important for an external party to get involved. And this is where the consultants are really beneficial. They open you out. They can share benchmarks and say, do you want to look at this, how it happens in the rest of the world? Short-sightedness, too much focus on current projects. You got too operational. Now all of us are like that. What happens is we have too many irons in the fire at one time. Too many things to do. So you're already busy coping up with your current work, and you have hardly any time to focus on strategy, innovation, creativity, and so on. You have got too operational. You have lost your strategic shoes and you have got too operational. So for all the gentlemen here, if you have been having similar breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a long time, and if your house interior, the furniture has not moved much around for the last couple of years, your wife must have lost the strategic shoes and she has got too operational. As for the husbands, please wait until a lady comes and presents one day, then she'll tell what to look for. So the problem is, it all happens to us because we are far too busy with our big rat race that we run every day, and we don't have time to stop and think how to do things differently. Now, this is another problem in planning. Negativity, lack of positive ideas or rejecting them. This is another issue. Anyway, any company has a vacuum for ideas if you don't generate it. You can't just let ideas flow, it will never come. You have to have a process that ideas will flow. You have got to have a facilitation process of collecting and working on those ideas, plus a way of rewarding it. So I'll just share with you how my company does. We run a project called Brainwaves, and where all the people can give out ideas, and some brilliant ideas come out, how to make a paper-free environment, how to reduce overheads by having different types of policies. An interesting idea which came was, can you have these gadgets that monitor a person's health, and then you do premiums based on that. Fantastic idea. It's possible today. It's possible today. It's done for motor insurance in other parts of the world, where they fix this similar thing to a GPS device, and they monitor your running, where how fast you drive, how reckless you drive, how many kilometers you drive, what time of the day you drive, and your premiums are adjusted accordingly. Fantastic idea. So we got some brilliant ideas through this. And interesting, the first prize was 2 return air tickets to Bangkok or Singapore or whatever, plus cash, plus 10,000 rupees fuel, and reward it. Very important to reward. Otherwise, you'll have a vacuum in ideas. So few important things for ideas is that you need to have a process of generating ideas, have a process of facilitating those ideas and working on them, and also remember rewarding. Of course, good ones, not all. Communication barriers, communication breakdown, one of the biggest problems. Often, I don't want to talk too much about this, but This is one big problem where you don't have ground level information coming in. You don't have upward communication, you only have bottom up one-way communication, which is a big problem for getting ground level insights for your planning process. Poor leadership. Leaders feel insecure. Unfortunately, most of the leaders feel insecure. And you'll see that it's the leaders who feel insecure are the leaders who don't grow. If you grow your people, you'll find that you are growing as well. So you put the pressure on you first to grow. And the biggest problem is poor leadership. That's one of the biggest barriers to effective planning. Lack of creativity. I don't want to tell you much because these are kind of connected. Right? Now I told you so much about the plan failing and the execution failing. I'm just going to give you a small example. I'm sorry this is an insurance example, but I'll try to give you a more practical example what we all know as well. Now look at the plan. Just take it as an example, okay? Achieve 300 million sales during the month of January 2016. Now that's an objective. Look at the strategy. Now the strategy is meet 100,000 customers with 10% conversion rate. I'll just explain because it's a little technical. You meet 100% customers, 10% conversion ratio means 10% will buy. That's what we call in insurance. So when you meet 100,000 customers, 10,000 people will buy. So that's a 10% conversion ratio. Okay. Use standard presentation with pre-decided marketing material. So you have nicely designed the campaign for this. You have developed the marketing material, everything to achieve this objective. Effectively use consumer promotion to convince the customer. So there'll be a consumer, say there'll be a consumer promotion for all the customers who buy during this period will get something. So that's a consumer promotion. Strictly meet customers only in the target segment. So you have told what are the segment that customers should be met. Okay, and then complete 10,000 policies with a case size of 30,000. So size of the policy is 30,000. Cover 10,000 policies. Interesting. I don't know whether it is very clear. Can you see the difference between the bold print and the non-bold print there? Right. Now let's see planning and execution errors. Meeting 100,000 customers is execution. Now if that didn't happen, it's an execution problem. 10% conversion ratio is not 100% within the execution control. I'll tell you why. Are you clear? But if the 100,000 customers were not met, it's an execution issue. Look at the next one. Use standard presentations with pre-decided marketing material. All is in bold print. Execution belongs to execution. If you didn't do it, it's an execution problem. Effectively use consumer promotion to convince customers. So you're supposed to communicate the consumer promotion, convince customers on the consumer promotion, why you should be buying during January. If you didn't do it, it's an execution problem. Strictly meet customers only in the target segment. Execution belongs to execution, right? Complete 100,000 policies with a case size of 30,000. It's not execution. Can be many other things. So what I'm trying to say is you separate the plan here and the execution. So now let's go to the areas that it's not bold. 10% conversion rate. After having done everything in the bold print, if you didn't get that, it could be something wrong with your campaign, which is a planning issue. It could be something wrong with your marketing material, which was a planning issue. Are you clear? Now, if you did not complete 10,000 policies, and if you didn't get that case size, probably your planned consumer promotion didn't work. So it's very important to separate your execution problems and planning problems. Otherwise, you get camouflaged to an extent that you don't know which went wrong. Now let's look at a more familiar example for us. Let's take a FMCG product like a shampoo. You're launching a shampoo. You got your product, pricing, everything right. And you have got a brilliant campaign. Execution is done by the sales force, right? What they can do is only use the trade promotion and fill the shelves. Fill the shelves. If the mistake is if you hold them responsible for offtake, which is highly dependent on the campaign, where the campaign has not done its job. Maybe not the best example, but look at how to kind of separate the two. It's very tough. It's very tough to draw a line and say these were the planning, these were the execution, but it's important to put an effort to find out which went wrong without often blaming it on the execution, which actually might not be the case. So classical example is the example that I told you earlier. Plan to have a fantastic online life insurance product, and the execution is done perfectly, and it's just that Sri Lankan consumer is not ready to buy it. Sri Lankan consumer is not ready to buy it. You think the Sri Lankan consumer is ready to buy online? Most of the things. I do book my hotels online. I do book my hotels online. I do book my air tickets online. So there are certain things that the consumer will never buy online. Classical example is, I don't know whether you know, there is a www.keels.lk website where you can buy your stuff. They'll deliver it to your house. They deliver it to your house. But practically, hardly anybody uses it, except for people who are abroad, right? Except for people who are abroad, who want to buy their monthly stuff for their parents. That's where they use it. Because Sri Lankans still like to, go and touch, feel and buy your stuff. They still like to do that. I'll tell you a nice example. Nice story actually. Very quickly I'll tell you this. There is a small sillara kade near my house. Right? Small sillara kade. Now this Mudalali is very, very creative. So he can draw nicely and he can write nicely. So he puts various like boards where he wants to communicate various things. But he's very sharp also. So people not to buy on credit and all that. So one day when I went there, I saw a banana on the cashier. And it had a toothpick and a board on that, right? I slowly went near it and saw what's in that board. A banana with a toothpick with a small board like that. ඒක ගහලා තියෙනවා ඔබන ගෙඩිය කියලා. right? මම මුදලාලිගෙන් ඇහුවා මොකද්ද මුදලාලි මේ ඔබන ගෙඩිය කියලා ගහලා තියෙන්නේ? සර් ජීවිතේට කෙහෙල් කනක් ගෙනාවට විකුණ ගන්න බෑ. මම වෙයි ළඟට ගිහිලා සර් ඔබලා අද කන්න බෑනේ කියලා යනවලු. තව එක්කෙනෙක් ඇවිල්ලා ආයි ඔබලා ඉදිලා නෑනේ කියලා යනවලු. ඉතින් මම මේක ගහලා තියෙන්නේ මං කියලා තියෙන්නේ සර් මේක ඇත්ති වෙනකන් ඔබන්න මං කැමති කෙහෙල්ලවරියකින් කපලා දෙන්නම් කියලා. ඒක ඔබන්න එපා කියලා. Now what are you trying to say here? You're giving a message that the Sri Lankan consumer does not buy groceries and vegetables without touching, feeling it. It will take some time to change that. But they will buy their hotels. They'll buy their tour packages. It will happen. So it's all about whether your consumer is ready, whether your consumer is the same as in Singapore or developed countries, or whether they are different. It's important. These are model professor talked about. So my job is simplified. But interesting model professor. Now what this shows is, we'll go from the least, it says which needs more attention. It's about your planning capabilities and the execution capabilities. Now which needs more attention? You saw, if it's a good plan with good execution capabilities, your good planning capabilities, good execution capabilities only required 4% of attention. The management attention towards making it a success. So obviously you got it right, right? You only need to monitor it. Only 4%. Look at the next lowest attention. Bad plan, bad execution. So you know both are bad anyway, so you don't need much emphasis there. So it's just 8%. Right? The next one is a bad plan with good execution capability. So you know at the start that your plan is not very good, but you have fantastic execution skills. You need a 13% effort and attention. So it's all about how much of management attention do you put for each of these clusters. Look at the last one. Good plan, bad execution. You need 74% of attention towards it. So now that gives you an assumption that we often assume, and maybe we are right, that execution fails. That execution is the area which needs more attention. Clear? Okay. What I can do is I can, it's already here, probably Samantha can help them to get the presentation. It's already on the computer, so probably it might, rather than, can take the photographs, but we can give it to you as well. No problem. And I have my email address as well at the last slide. Just drop me an email, I will just forward this presentation to you. Now what does this mean? Planning and strategic thinking gets things started, but it's the execution that we find the greatest opportunities for improvement. That's an area. So this slide clearly shows you that. The larger attention is required for execution and less for the plan. Right? So you need more attention towards the real execution of it. Now what are the execution errors? Let's look at the execution errors. Bad plan. Interesting, isn't it? Now you blame the execution, but the plan was bad. So that becomes an execution error because the plan was bad. Under-resourced plans. So you can't execute it. It goes on execution. The blame is for execution, but it was an under-resourced plan. Communication gaps. This is a typical execution error. Now in my organization, it's very tough because I am heading a life distribution operation where I have 16 zonal managers, 66 regional managers, 250 sales managers, and 4,000 sales force. Now, there can be a communication breakdown in each of those categories going down. So the larger you have the layers, the larger the tendency for communication to break down. Poor line leadership, I don't have to tell you about this. This is a fundamental problem that we have. The line leadership is poor, and you have to improve the skills of the line leadership. And no point waiting until a plan is put out. You have to build it on a continuous basis so that you have the right skills at the right time you need them. Competency and capacity issues. Now I particularly divided these two into competency and capacity. Competency is capability versus capability plus willingness. So you're talking of knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So do you have the knowledge, skills, plus do you have the right attitude? If you don't have it, it's a problem. What is capacity? Interesting. Unfortunately, some people don't have capacity, and we overestimate it. So you have to see who are the people who are doing the execution. Not everybody is the same, no? Right? Capacity levels differ. It doesn't only come from your educational background, it comes with your genes, with your knowledge that you have developed over a period of time. This is something that you tend to go unnoticed. Because you're worried about the knowledge and the skills that they have, and the diplomas and the degrees, you're not looking at capacity, very important. Capacity is not the same, and if you assume that capacity of two people are the same, we are sadly mistaken. Resistance to change, this is a big problem everywhere, right? People are comfortable with what they're doing, and fear of failure as well. Right now I'm going to take you to an interesting model, which is why execution fails. Let's look at why execution fails, and execution fails because of two reasons. Can't do and won't do. Now, can't do means you don't have the capability of doing it. At any level, this can happen. You don't have the capability of doing it. Now, capability has few issues. One thing is competence issues. That means you don't have the knowledge and the skills to do it. So this becomes a good diagnostic tool as well to see why your execution is failing. So if it's a can't do problem, that means people want to do it but they can't do it, and competence issues is one thing. Second one is environmental issues. Environment is twofold: the physical environment and the psychological environment. Physical environment refers to, do you have the adequate resources, the environment to do it, what you need, right? Psychological environment refers to the leadership, the motivation to do it, and so on. So are you failing there? And the next one is, are there barriers to perform? Machines not working, systems are slow, you want to do it but you can't do it. So it's a barrier that needs to be removed. So you have to check where you're failing. If it's a won't do problem, attitude. So you have everything but you're not doing it. And these people have to be repaired or selectively exited from the process. Maybe they are not bad, but they are bad in this job. Probably you might be doing injustice to them by keeping them. Better to talk to them and say, probably you're better off doing something else. Yeah? So this becomes a kind of a diagnostic tool that you can use to see where your execution is failing. So 3 tips to execute successfully. Sharpen your focus. So number 1 is keep it simple so that people understand. Keep it simple. People can't understand complex, complicated plans. You need to keep it simple. Understand and be understood. Understanding means understand their concerns, as well as be understood is be very clear in your communication that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. This may be simple but often forgotten. Identify that one thing. For a strategy to work, you don't need 100 things, but probably few things that have great impact. So it's all about prioritization. Are you able to prioritize and find out that 1, 2, 3 things that make a huge impact to a strategy in terms of execution? And know when to say no. Sometimes you get loaded. You want to execute a plan, but too many things are coming on your head, and you have to say, boss, can you let me do this 1, 2, and 3 because I think I'm getting overloaded. I don't think I'll be able to do anything. Build your competencies. I told you about competencies. It's about knowledge, skills, and attitude. Treasure your talent. Talent will take you miles. Be systematic. Balance your view. Don't think that always you or we as managers has the best ideas. We don't sometimes. More and more we work, more and more we get experience, more and more we get old, we learn how not to do things. And the newer people find newer ways of doing things. The next point is ignite your passion. I believe that in whatever you do, it's the passion. If you have a passion for something, you do it well. So you must ask the reason why you're doing it. So number 1 is ask yourself why you are executing this strategy. Why am I doing it? If you're not convinced, how can you do it? So one thing we ask the sales people in life insurance is, number 1, do you have a policy? Do you believe in it? Because if they don't believe in it, how can they sell? So number 1 is, do you believe in this strategy? Paint the picture. So you have got to be able to paint the picture. After you do it, it is this way that it will look. And that's the passion that you will drive. If you have your painted vision, where you want to go, what to achieve, what will it look like after I achieve this? And that picture is what's going to create that passion for you. Appreciate, recognize, and reward performance. A lot of people wait until the end of the execution to reward. Don't wait until the end. They need the energy to go. So little bits and pieces of where they do well, try to encourage them. So don't wait until annual targets are hit. Congratulate, recognize every month, every week, because they need the energy to go 1 year. There's no point rewarding them after 1 year. So I do some work for Sri Lankan Airlines. I was training some cabin crew leaders. I asked them, on a Colombo-London flight, when do you tell your crew, well done? They said, once we land at the Heathrow airport, at the debrief, oh my God, after 10 hours. And I said, when do you meet this crew again? Sometimes we might not meet them because some of the crew is flying back. So I asked them, where is the energy to provide great customer service for 10 hours? Where is the energy? Because after they landed, there's no point, it's a post-mortem. Yeah? Create connections at every level. The most lowest person have connections, have access to them so that they can discuss execution problems. And social media is something that you can do. How many leaders are on FB? Very important. It's a nice medium to be in touch. Interesting. 2014 June, before I took over distribution, the large 4,000 sales force, I had 800 friends on my Facebook. Today, 2016 January, I have 1,800 people on my Facebook. And the 1,000 are the most ground level people who find simple ways of interacting with me. And they treasure it. So build the connections, because you know when you're failing, you know why you're failing, all that, because you develop a lot of ground level insights. Another model of 3 ways to improve your execution: include street-wide operators in the plan, in group. I told you all this before. Bring in the executors into the planning room. Hold people accountable for making the plan work. Do they know what I have to do? And try to remove role ambiguities. If people are not clear, overlapping roles, 2 are responsible, each one doesn't know which one is responsible for what, you need to remove that. Single responsibility will provide you that accountability that you need. Establish crystal clear norms around the communication. What do you want to communicate? How will you communicate? What are you going to communicate? Very, very, very important. So the most important thing they say is the communication is to hear what isn't being said. A lot of people don't say. It's in their hearts. So can you open it out? Can you open it out? So the common problems in execution, these are common problems in planning and execution both. Sometimes you're stuck in the process. There are some managers who don't take decisions. They're stuck in the process. And I'll tell you some of the symptoms that you have in these managers. Can I have another document? Can I see something else? What happened last year? Don't we have any more reports on this? Right? Can we take this decision tomorrow? Stuck in the process. You can't get everything right to make a decision. When it is adequate, you need to make it. So some people are just stuck in the process, and this is a big problem. Involvement of personal interest. This is sad, but some people have their personal interests involved, and I don't want to take this best decision because I don't like this. Personal agendas. You need to be rational. Egoism. Unfortunately, higher and higher we go in the organizations, this becomes more and more. And what I'm trying every day is that in my career, each step I keep up to lower it. And I have been successful in doing that. I think we should do it. Each step you go up, try to reduce a step of ego. 1 step at a time, 1 step up, 1 step down. Become much more humble. Trying to achieve everything, that's what I told you earlier, you can't achieve everything. It's not possible. But you need to see what you need to achieve. Very precisely what you need to achieve. Vague, lack of objectivity. Sometimes plans are very vague. They are all over the place. You don't know what you want to achieve. Yeah. So this is what I told you earlier. It's the boss's plan, so I have no confidence. This is why it's so important to bring the execution team to the planning room. For 2 reasons. 1 is you get and capture ground level insights. 2, more importantly, they buy the plan. If they don't buy the plan, they will never implement it. So it's very important to bring them into the planning room. So a summary on executing a plan. I'm just summarizing with 4 points how to do a good plan. 1, keep it simple. make it executable by enough ground level insights, ensure that it is integrated, the plan and the execution plan is integrated and well informed. Well informed means it's clearly communicated. In terms of execution, the summary, it is clearly understood that everybody knows what has to be done, when and how, adequately resourced, well led, led by the leaders well, capable, that means you have the capacity and the competence, and willing. This is the jigsaw puzzle for success of execution. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I will not stop for questions because obviously there is a panel discussion arranged. I don't know whether, I think I went over by probably 5 minutes, and thank you very much.